We are back here talking Mandalorian once again, Chapter 14, The Tragedy. And joining me today, somebody I talked to about football a bunch, also a big Star Wars fan, Nick Fraietta is here. Nick, how are you?
Hey, Mike, doing well. How's everything going?
Everything's going pretty good. I gotta say, this season of Mandalorian has been a bit of fun to sort of get stymied through another round of quarantine craziness.
I love it. I am absolutely loving this season.
Yes, and I want to ask you, obviously, like people who listen to the podcast know, oh, you're a big Giants fan, big football guy, but a lot of people don't know you are a big Star Wars guy.
I'm a bigger Star Wars fan than I am a football fan. I can say that is 100% true. I have a Baby Yoda doll of this in my house. I have pictures all over. I have every movie on Blu-ray. I have every video game that's ever released. I don't know about everyone, but almost every video game that's ever released. I am the biggest Star Wars guy there is. Actually, my PlayStation at the PS4 is the Star Wars edition of the PlayStation.
Wow, that's dedication.
Yeah.
I also have to ask you: did you do the full deep dive into Clone Wars and Rebels?
Oh yeah, I don't know if I've seen them multiple times, but I've definitely seen every episode. I've seen numerous episodes multiple times, but I've seen every episode of Clone Wars and Rebels, and I love both those shows. I can rewatch memorable scenes from them. How people rewatch memorable scenes from the movies, I rewatch memorable scenes from those shows, and I absolutely love them.
Yeah, I gotta say, this must be a different experience for you being the full-on completionist, where you've seen pretty much every piece of Star Wars media. So, when they're making these references to Bo-Katan and to Ezra Bridger and the Grand Admiral Thrawn, they mean a lot more to you than they are to the casual watching the trilogy Star Wars fan.
Yeah, I get a lot of texts every Friday from people saying, "Did you watch it yet?" And I say yes, and then it's so how did this guy play in, or who's this they're referencing, or what's the big deal with her? And I'm always explaining it and saying, well, this is the story with this guy, and so on. This is where Bo-Katan comes from. This is why she's here and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm sure last week your phone was probably blowing up with the Grand Admiral Thrawn reference that really blew up the Star Wars internet.
Yeah, that was really fantastic. And last time we saw him, we went into I don't know what you call it, the nowhere. So I guess he's out of the nowhere. I don't know exactly what they ended up calling it at the time of the show, what they referred to it as in Rebels. But him and Ezra were stuck in I don't know, a time loop, or I don't know exactly what it was. So I guess they're out of it. So I mean, if he's out of it, I'm assuming Ezra is too.
Yeah, we've been speculating we'll see Ezra this season on the show, and we got 2 episodes left to do that. I don't know if we'll make it there, but sticking with this show, when you saw...
Well, Mike, let me stop you right there. If Ezra Bridger makes a live action appearance, I'm not saying this will happen, and there's no chance this will happen, but if he makes a live action appearance, what do you think of Keanu Reeves playing him?
I don't think that's where they're going to go.
Oh, that will never happen, but I think that would be the perfect casting.
It would be a lot of fun. I just don't think they're going to go that way.
Oh, no. Oh, definitely not. But I think that would be... I've seen a picture of them side by side, and I'm like, wow, that needs to happen. Never will, but that would be fantastic.
It would be, but I just feel like Keanu Reeves out of the price range of the Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know if you watched much of The Haunting of Bly Manor. The name I've been heard is the guy who plays Owen the Cook is the guy I've heard mentioned for Ezra Bridger.
No, actually, I know nothing of that.
Yeah, he's the name that's been rumored around the internet as the potential Ezra Bridger candidate.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm excited to see whoever it may be.
Yeah, but
if he does make an appearance.
Yeah, so before we get into this specific episode, when this came out last year, and this was the first Star Wars live action show that came out, how excited were you for this concept?
I was very excited, and to be honest, I loved season 1. Don't get me wrong, but it was just I'm watching it, and I always thought to myself, after each episode, I loved it, I liked it, but if it wasn't Star Wars, would I like it? And I would said, no, I probably wouldn't. I don't know, this is a show about, and not that it was about nothing, but I'm if it wasn't Star Wars related, I don't know how much I'd relate to, I wouldn't relate to the show, and I'm I don't know if I'd like it, but this season, I don't know, I guess you could say the same thing, but it's so good this season, there's so many references, and it's taking off so much in terms of action, and it's not holding back, that I'm I used to, not that I would wait to watch an episode, but, back last year, I was working in my office, not from home. So I would, I'd get home and watch it when I could, whatever. Now it's as soon as I wake up Friday morning, I'm bringing my laptop to the couch, and I'm watching that episode immediately. I've even considered, they come out at 3 a.m. They come out at midnight West Coast time. I've considered staying up to watch them sometimes, but I'm like, you know what? What's the point? I might as well just get some sleep. So I'm not exhausted. But the finale, I'm probably going to do that. I don't know if I can wait for that finale.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing with the finale is, like, you're not a big Twitter guy, so, like, it's not like you have to worry about going on Twitter having the episode spoiled for you. You can just get up at whatever time you get up and throw it on there and not be spoiled at all.
Yeah, I go on Reddit a lot. I'm a big Redditor, and when I go on Reddit, I follow all the Mandalorian, all the Star Wars things. But they all have spoiler tags on them, so unless you click on it, you're not going to see the spoilers, so that's fine. If I scroll a little bit in the morning, and then I say, you know what? I got to stop because I got to watch the episode. And to me, the fair amount of time before, like, when it comes to movies, I don't know what the cutoff is. Like, you can't spoil the movie because people didn't see it. But with this show, what I've seen from the official Star Wars Instagram page and from some of the other pages, it seems like 3 days is the cutoff. So, like, if that episode airs, like it always does on a Friday morning, by Monday, if you haven't seen it, too bad.
Yeah, that's basically the way I think it was with Avengers Endgame, where I remember the Russo brothers, the directors of it, were like, hey, like, I think they gave us a longer. I think I said, give it, like, I think like 2 weeks before you tell anybody what happens in this. And then I unfortunately got spoiled on one of the big plot points going into it because somebody decided to be a troll on Facebook and tell everybody that Tony Stark dies.
You know, I got a random message on Reddit from somebody. I guess I'm in like some Marvel subreddit or Avengers one. I don't know which one it is. And I must have messaged like, oh, I don't remember. I comment a lot. So I must have commented I was excited or something or can't wait or something like that. And someone sent me a private message that said, Iron Man dies and Cap goes back to live the life he never could.
Oh.
And I didn't want to believe it. And then at the end, I was like, oh, boy, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I will say, like, I've told the story on the podcast before, but, like, I know exactly who did this. And as soon as that came true, they were unfriended on Facebook. I'm like, that's it. You're done.
Needless to say, though, even when I knew that was going to happen, I still loved that movie.
Oh,
and
great.
I still and
great.
Even knowing he was going to die did not take away from him dying. It was still a great scene.
Yeah, I'm not saying it affected my enjoying the movie. My point was, you know what, like, you're gonna be an asshole like that. You're getting blocked because that's not right.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. It also didn't really, even though I saw it in writing on my screen, I'm not just going to believe some random guy. Like, yeah, I had it in the back of my mind. Like, oh, this guy could have spoiled the movie. But even watching it when he died, I'm still kind of surprised. Even though I heard a day before it might happen, it's not like I didn't think of that myself, that he might die. You know what I mean? It's not like it's the first time I ever heard Iron Man was going to die. So it wasn't really like, oh my God, he's dead. Like, I kind of figured he was probably going to die anyway, considering him or Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans were both rumored that it was their last film. So I'm like, all right, one of them's going to die, or both of them. So wasn't that surprising.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't. But back to the Mandalorian for a minute. I do feel like this season you mentioned the references are definitely picking up. I feel like in a lot of ways, like Mando is sort of the analog for the casual audience, and like all these things are going on with references being made. He's kind of like, what's going on here? I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like it's kind of an analog to what's going on for like your casual fans who have only really watched the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, I have a lot. As I mentioned, I have a lot of friends who text me and whatnot, but a lot of them are just like, they're like, oh, I love the show. He's so cool. Love Baby Yoda. Like, that's all they know about the show. Like, they have no idea what's going on. They have no idea who Ahsoka was. Like, even big Star Wars fans who have seen all the movies multiple times don't really know Ahsoka because she wasn't in any of the movies. So, like, my brother, for example, been on this podcast many times. He was texting me, like, questions about Ahsoka. Like, he doesn't know. He knows who she is, but he doesn't really know anything about her character. And she's like, why wouldn't she train the child? And I'm like, well, she mentions about how there's a lot of fear in him. And she says specifically how she saw that fear take over a fully trained Jedi Knight. That's a direct reference to Anakin. And I'm telling my brother that. He's like, oh, that makes sense. Because it was Anakin's Padawan, right? And I'm like, yeah. So like that's stuff that you don't even like big fans. Like he's a big fan. He knows the Star Wars. Like, even he doesn't pick up on stuff like that, and there's a lot more than just that. Like the Darksaber, for example. I would say 95% of the audience at that final scene in season 1, seeing Moff Gideon with that Darksaber, had to go to the internet and said, what is he holding? What is that thing? Look at the origins and all of that.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in the middle ground there. Like, I've not done the full series watching the Clone Wars Rebels, but like, I'm a guy who likes to work on the wikis, and I kind of take my time, like, looking up stuff. So, like, I have passing knowledge, but I don't have the full knowledge of some of these things.
Yeah, I was similar to that a few years ago, and then I didn't watch Clone Wars when it was out. I didn't watch Rebels when it was new. I watched Clone Wars probably like when Rebels just started, and then I watched Rebels as it was going on and caught up and watched I didn't watch it live, but maybe like a day later. I don't know. I would download the episodes, but I basically watched Rebels when it ended, and I watched Clone Wars like well after it was already, I guess, canceled at that point. And then they came back, and I loved that too. And they brought it back earlier this year. That was awesome. But so I a couple of years ago, I was in the same boat as you, but I started doing more of that. And I don't read the books or the comics, but I have a lot of knowledge on them from the wiki, and I read like about them and stuff.
Yeah, it's just a good setup here. See where we are heading this. We'll go into the episode now. We're gonna play the spoiler warning here for anybody who's not seen the episode yet. All right, you have been warned. If you have not watched The Mandalorian through Chapter 14, The Tragedy, get out, go watch the episode if you care about being spoiled. Otherwise, hang on. Nick and I are going to talk about something that can be a very depressing turn of events for the Grogu fans.
We'll see. I think for now, yeah, but I don't think so by the end.
I don't think so by the end, but we'll get started here. We'll start at the top of the episode, and we start off on the ship, where we basically see Grogu and Mando. And Mando basically embraced his role of being Grogu's dad to an extent. And it was incredible acting, I think, in my opinion, just seeing, like, without taking his helmet off, that Pedro Pascal conveys, like, I want him to do well, but I'm going to lose this kid soon. You could the emotion he was conveying without actually seeing his face was pretty cool in that scene.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of hidden emotions in that. Obviously hidden because you can't see them, but more beyond that, I think there's a lot of him. He has developed strong feelings for Grogu. It's very obvious, and they have a bond and like a friendship and love between the two of them at this point. But he is still honoring his mission, which is to get Grogu to safety, get him where he belongs among his own kind. And you can see he's trying to convince himself of that. He's trying to convince himself that he doesn't have that love for him and he can let go. But he knows deep down when the time comes that he has to let go, that he has to send him off, he won't be able to. And he's trying to convince himself that he could.
Yeah, he is. And he sees feeling disappointed when Grogu doesn't take the ball with the Force exactly the same way. And there's it's such a trend in this episode, a lot of Mando saying, like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, this is out of my element. This feel like, again, like I said earlier, I feel like this is sort of an analog for us. So sort of like, whereas a lot of the references coming in, he's like, I'm just here just trying to kick ass and protect this kid. That's all I want to do.
Yeah, Mando represents the casual fan in the show.
Yes, he really is.
He's just there. Yeah. He's a casual character. He has interactions with all of these different characters who have all these different backstories. And he's just the guy they all met who happened to have Baby Yoda with him.
Yeah, and then this also takes place on Tython. We see the Razor Crest come in. They see the Jedi Temple structure there. I did think the scene of him flying Grogu like in the air with the jetpack, and that was a cool visual.
I was a little confused the first time I saw it. I'm like, where did he fly from? Did he just jump out of the ship? Where's the ship? I was like, where's it? But I mean, I guess they landed it. They just didn't show that. But no, this was a really cool scene. That was really the stuff that I just feel like maybe I need to watch the first season again. But I feel like the first season was, I don't want to say boring, but the first season just didn't have that like he didn't get on the jetpack and fly away. Like that would be like the coolest scene in season 1. And in season 2, that's just a normal scene. I feel like there's a lot more going on. And like that kind of scene is something we come to expect now. And in season 1, that would be like the highlight of the episode.
Yeah, I feel like the budget
definitely. But again, I didn't dislike season 1.
Yeah,
I did not dislike season 1. I'm just saying how much better season 2 is.
Yeah, because I feel like season 1 was sort of like they were just building the world a little bit and give you expectations. Now they're sort of like taking the toys out of the toy box and start playing with more stuff.
Right. It was very. I don't want to say. It almost seems like. This is how it works in all stories. It works like this in most movies and video games and TV shows. The beginning is ultra realistic, and then as time goes on, you start seeing crazy things. Like look at the MCU, for example. In Iron Man 1, just building the suit was like such a thing, and then by Endgame, he hit a button on his chest, and he was Iron Man already. Like you see what I'm saying? You had to build it up in order to get to that point. So I would definitely respect what they had to do in that first season.
Yeah, it's also like you see a progression of like the threat levels too, because the villain in Iron Man 1 is just Obadiah Stane screaming at his lackeys about how Iron Man's able to build a suit in the middle of Iraq with a box of scraps. While in on up to Endgame, we have the bad guy is basically a universe conquering titan who wants to eliminate half the life in the world. It's a big jump in stakes.
Right, with an army of who knows how many people there were there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did like the setup there on Titan. It was very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Very like Stonehenge-y in a way with the stone in the middle. And I thought it was really cool, like the sort of effect that the force field has when Grogu was trying to communicate with the Force, and very strong, very powerful like tunnel there, basically sort of blocking Mando from getting him out of there until he's done.
Yeah, I also noticed when Grogu was like first sitting there and they were like trying to get it to work or whatever you want to say, Mando's like looking around, like looking for a switch, because that's another point you made earlier about he represents like the casual fan. They're like, all right, how do you get this thing going? What do you do? What do you do? Meanwhile, you don't do anything. It's the Force that takes its course. You don't have to. There's no switch you hit, like and you could see when it started working, he was thrown back in surprise, because that's like wow to him. He doesn't understand that, and he's looking for the mechanical way to start this thing. He's like, all right, where's the on switch?
Yeah. This is a point that's made on another podcast I listen to. I think it's very interesting. When I'll get your take on this. I feel like this series is kind of like if we went through the Star Wars like original trilogy with Han Solo as the main character instead of Luke Skywalker, and seeing what life would be like from Han's point of view.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I definitely agree, because it's almost like we're following a side character around the whole time, but a very cool side character, which exactly like you said, Han Solo.
Yeah,
that's a perfect example.
Yeah, and anyway, we have this, and then he finally gets the force field going. We don't know how long does it take, and then all the super fans geek out when they see Slave One fly in and land, and like at that moment, you're like, "Oh man, stuff's about to go down."
That was a phenomenal scene, but the first thing I said to myself was, well, I guess we'll get there in a second when we actually meet Boba. But yeah, I freaked out too. I was like, oh my god. Because we all saw him in the first episode. And again, that's another thing that a lot of casual fans didn't pick up on. It's the same actor who played Jango in episode 2. It's the same actor who played the clones in episode 3. But not a lot of people can recognize him 15, 20 years later almost. So, like, I saw him. We all saw him. We all knew. But there's a lot of people out there who didn't recognize him right away. And they're like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
But when he came, I was like, wow. I knew it was coming at some point, because I was thinking in the back of my head, we saw him in the first episode. It's now episode 6. Where is this guy? Like, what's his deal?
Yeah. Yeah, we want out what his deal is. And, of course, when he shows up, you don't know whose side he's on, because in the past, seeing him working with the Empire, you think, oh, maybe he came, maybe they hired him to go after Grogu. But no, he's here for his armor, and he's brought a friend along. He brought back Fennec Shan, the assassin played by Ming-Na Wen in the first season. We saw her left for dead at the end of the season, and we finally get that cliffhanger to that last scene of that episode on Tatooine when we see a figure approaching her. For a while, we thought it was Moff Gideon, but no, it's actually Boba Fett. Like, found her and saved her with some sort of cybernetics. And does any character actually die on this show besides Keel?
No, it's Star Wars in general. No one dies. At this point, I'm expecting to see Mace Windu in this show. At this point, but I was very happy that we finally got the answer to who that was. At first, I thought it was Boba Fett back then, like last year, and then I said and then after the first episode aired this season, and they showed Boba on Tatooine, I'm thinking, all right, it's got to be. And then I look more into it, and I go, wait a minute. If you watch Chapter 5 again at the end, the figure, which we now know is Boba, that approaches her has a lot of. You can hear armor clinging when he's walking. And then when you see Boba in chapter, 9? Is that season 2, episode 1, chapter 9?
Yep.
Chapter 9, he has no armor. So I'm like, oh, it can't be him because he doesn't have his armor. But that makes no sense. It has to be him. That's basically proving it's him by showing it on Tatooine. I'm like, that makes no sense to me. I think it might have been an oversight that he had. Maybe I need to go back and watch both those episodes again to make sure I'm right. But it seems like in chapter 5, there was armor walking towards. And in chapter 9, there is no armor on Boba, so I was a little confused.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was.
But whatever. But that's not a big deal. Like, I really don't care. Like, even if it is an oversight, it's not a big deal. I don't care.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. I mean, that's why when based on the shape of the boots and all that, I thought it was Gideon for some reason, because that was the other name that came in mind. I thought maybe they just went and finished her off with the Darksaber or something. But No, she's still here now. She's working with him because he saved her life, and they have come because they want to get Boba Fett's actual armor back. They strike a deal basically of you give me the armor, we help you protect Grogu, and I feel like this is another common trope in this series that Mando is always a deal maker. I feel like this deal is not terrible compared to some of the ones he's made. Some of the other ones he's made.
No, it was a good deal, but this is where my little thing that I was trying to say earlier that I realized it wasn't the right time for, where I want to say this now. That raised a lot of questions to me when Boba showed up and he was asking for Mando's help because he mentioned the marshal from Chapter 9. I gotta find his name. Oh God, I'll never. Yeah, he mentions him by name, which means he knows who he is, right?
Yeah.
And he has his ship, right? Because we see him flying it. So why didn't he just take the armor from him in the first place? Why was he on Tatooine if he has his ship? Did he just get out of the Sarlacc pit? Is that maybe what we're finding out?
It's possible. I feel like we have to have. Has to be a flashback with him that we may get in the next 2 episodes. Might explain some of this.
Because I'm a little confused if he knows who the guy is, and we can see he can clearly still fight, which we find out in the scene right after what we're up to. He can clearly still fight. I don't know why he wouldn't just go after him himself.
Yeah, I don't know why either. Like maybe the being in the Sarlacc took a lot out of him, and now that he has backup in the form of Fennec, he's like, okay, now's the time to make my move for the armor. Especially
that's definitely possible. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus,
also, I wonder where Fennec was in Chapter 9.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Fennec maybe was chilling back at wherever Boba Fett was hanging out on Tatooine, and then like I think he maybe saw okay, like I'm not gonna like screw the villagers here, and then when he sees Mando's stake, he's like, you know what, this is my shot. I'm going after this guy.
Yeah, but it was cool to see them, and the deal, obviously, back to the deal with them, it was obviously a good deal for the viewers, as that means
we got fights.
So, and what does he need the armor for, Mando? I mean, he has got his own armor, and they did show some more. It was a little confusing how originally, throughout all of the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, when we were just at that point in Star Wars, so I guess about 15 years ago, we were under the impression that Django and Boba were Mandalorians. Then you find out in the Clone Wars that they're not Mandalorians. And now we're finding out again that they kind of are Mandalorians.
Yeah, a little
confusing. So it's a little confusing. I don't know if they are or not. I mean, I'm pretty sure Jango Fett was born on Mandalore.
Yeah, I don't
know.
I believe that's
very confusing. Like how to be a man. Oh, he was born on a planet that's in the Mandalore system, not in the sector, not necessarily on the planet Mandalore. But whatever. I mean, it's a little confusing when it comes. But at the end of the day, they're basically Mandalorians.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting that he said, it's kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but he points out that this was also his father's armor, which I don't know about you, but I remember the actual movie Attack of the Clone. I feel like it was a different shade of coloring than what Boba Fett's armor ends up being.
Yeah, no, it was. Attack of the Clones was a silvery blue, whatever, and Boba's is mostly green, a little bit of red on there, a couple of damaged parts and whatnot. Maybe, I could see clearly, I mean, he had to have painted it at some point, but he also probably took a lot of the beating because, I mean, it was a long time between Attack of the Clones is 22 before the Battle of Yavin, and Empire Strikes Back is 3 after. So there's a 25-year gap between Episode 2 and Episode 5. So there's a lot could have happened there.
Yeah, a lot definitely could have. And I think we get the fight now, and basically this turns into a giant game of capture the flag where Grogu is the flag and they're trying to defend the ground from the oncoming stormtroopers. This fight scene was fantastic. We see how skilled the sharpshooter Fennec is. We see Mando trying to get the kid. He gets knocked out, but this is basically a showcase for Fennec and Boba Fett to showcase how badass they are as fighters.
Yeah, that was an extremely unbelievable fight. That was awesome for just to keep it simple. That was awesome, and recently Star Wars has been going for that wow moment, and they've been doing it really well. They gave Darth Vader his wow moment in Rogue One. They gave Maul his wow moment in the last season of Clone Wars when he was in that hallway, and so Vader had the hallway scene and he crushed all the rebels in Rogue One. Maul had his hallway scene in Clone Wars where he crushed all the clones with the hallway. I don't know if you've seen that scene.
I have not.
So essentially, Ahsoka lets him out of his cell where he's being held, and it's during Order 66. So the clones are trying to kill him because they're trying to kill basically anyone who's not part of the Empire at that point. And Vader, it's similar, very similar looking to the way Vader's hallway scene is in Rogue One. How he's in the end of the hallway and they're all going nuts shooting him. Vader uses his lightsaber to escape that scene, to kill everyone, and he's one of the best. That's my favorite scene in like all of Star Wars. And then Maul doesn't have his lightsaber because he was held captive. He literally uses the hallway itself to kill them. He's using the Force to bring the walls together to crush them. He takes a piece of the wall, throws them at the guys with the Force. It's a very cool scene. And then this was Boba Fett's wow moment, where he comes in, gets his armor, blows up the ships that are fleeing. He has like his superhero landing in a way. That was his wow moment. They've been doing a lot of wow moments pretty much since Disney bought them, really. But I like it. I love the wow moment. It's awesome. You get to see classic characters like Vader and Maul and Boba Fett get their moments on screen where it's like stuff that you didn't really get to see. Like everyone always, the big criticism on Boba Fett was he's supposed to be so cool, but what the hell has he ever done?
Yeah.
You see him in one fight scene and he just falls down a hole.
Yeah. They did a good.
Same thing with Maul. Maul was in one fight scene, he died. Vader, although we see how great of a character and a villain Vader is, in my opinion, Vader's the best character in all of Star Wars. I think the whole story is really about him, but you don't really, when we were first introduced him in the original trilogy, he's thought of as feared and like this amazingly gifted or Sith, Jedi, whatever you want to call him at that point, Sith, but you never see it. You never see him in action, and then you finally get to see him. If you see him as Anakin, sure, but that's 20 years ago. But then when you see him in Rogue One, it's that's why he's feared.
Yeah, definitely. I do think I like this style of fight, especially like as opposed to like most time Mando's group is trying to attack something, opposed to him trying to play defense here. That group was pretty cool. I liked the moment there when they pinned Fennec behind the boulder, and she used this dislodged boulder basically just send it down the hill and just crush a bunch of stormtroopers. We have Boba Fett showing off his fighting skills without the suit, with the suit, and the suit, him flying in with the suit, and then, as you said, using the missile on the jetpack for the first time, and basically using it to kamikaze 2 ships is like incredibly epic.
Yeah, that was the epic moment. That's the epic moment of the episode. It's the epic moment for Boba Fett, and I think you may not get the older fans of this, people who were fans of the original trilogy as kids, because to them it's over. A lot of those people, like once Episode 6 ended, Star Wars ended. But a lot of the people who are still invested in Star Wars, I think Boba Fett has redeemed himself, and he's now what he was thought of. He is that badass character.
Yeah, he absolutely is. And this is a great bait and switch by the editors here, because they kind of have you thinking, oh, they won, they're running away, Boba Fett kills them all, and then boom, out of nowhere, Razor Crest gets completely destroyed by the Imperial cruiser in the air. I think that was probably the biggest shock of the whole episode. So
it was very shocking to see. I was more confused as like why, but then I realized, and a minute later, there's 2 things that survived that crash: the marble, or whatever it is, the piece of the ship that Grogu's always playing with,
and the spear,
and the spear. Now, there's a reason for both of it. The marble is to show that there's still hope. You're still going to get Grogu back, although this may have been destroyed. There's a little piece of hope left. And number 2 is that spear. So I think it's as obvious as anything. When you see Ahsoka fighting in the last episode against the spear, our final battle this season is Mando versus Moff Gideon, Darksaber versus Spear.
Yeah, that is going to be an epic. That's going to be an epic fight. I would put $10,000 on that is going to happen this season in the last episode. Yeah, that would be a fun fight when we get it, but we do lose our Razor Crest, and then we realize that at some point, like, they realize, oh, we have to get back to the child, and then all of a sudden, Gideon's cruiser unleashes the Dark Troopers, who we saw teased a couple episodes ago. We saw the armor, and now we see them in action. What do you think of getting the Dark Troopers in live action?
I think that was perfectly done, because a lot of people, I saw it all over the internet, were annoyed that they didn't see them fight. And I think it's better that way. They come in, they get the child, they swoop out, they're gone. And if you want to see them fight, you wait till that finale, because it's going to be epic. You're going to see them fighting. You're going to see Gideon fighting. You're going to see Mando fighting. And then I think we can move on to, I guess, what we're expecting to see in that episode and the build-up to that episode, which is how is Mando going to, find out? How's he going to know? He has no idea where Moff Gideon is, right?
Yeah.
And he has no idea who he's bringing with him. So I think we can move on to that now.
Yeah, and he has no ship, so for a minute it looks like he's done, but afterwards we do get the moment from Boba Fett and Fennec where they say, hey, like, according to our deal, we promised you to ensure the child's safety. That hasn't been done yet, so we're still with you. So basically Mando hitches a ride on Slave One. They go back to Navarro to meet Cara Dune, and we find out Cara did take up the Republic's offer to be basically a law enforcement officer. They go back to have Mando get information about one of the bounty hunters he helped last season, and basically left to get imprisoned by the Republic. They need to jailbreak him. Why do you think they need him?
Well, he is capable of finding Moff Gideon. That's why they need him.
Yeah.
He's how they're going to find Gideon. But I do have my one nitpick of the episode.
Sure.
I mentioned the thing about Boba on why he didn't just get his armor back, but that's not a big deal. I don't really care. Whatever. I mean, that's just a story. It does go a little bit off character for Boba to act the way he did and honor his end of the deal. Maybe he sees sympathy for Mando and the child, but from what I have read about Boba in terms of everything that he has done outside of, well, even in the movies, but also in like the comics and the books, he's portrayed mostly as a bad guy. He's usually portrayed as a bad guy. He's portrayed as a slimy guy, goes behind people's backs. Seeing him honor the end of the deal is a new thing for him. And maybe that's just character development. Maybe that's just him turning his life around, becoming someone else. Like in the Clone Wars, he is pure evil. He is a little kid in the Clone Wars, and he's learning how to become a bounty hunter from a lot of the other bounty hunters. But like at this, maybe it could just be a turn in character for him, but it seems a little out of place for him to be agreeing to that deal. And again, like I said, it could have just been sympathy for Mando.
Yeah, I also think it helps that it is actually a Mandalorian he's helping and not just some random guy he met on the street, where maybe he feels like a sense of honor to help out his fellow like Mandalorian character.
Yeah, that could definitely be it. I mean, again, I say it's a nitpick, but with me, this is not a nitpick as in I didn't like it. This is, I wonder why. Yeah. It doesn't mean I have no negative feelings towards it. I'm just like, I wonder why he did that.
Yeah, I would say it's probably, I think it's my theory. It's like a sort of like, Mandalorian to Mandalorian, I'll honor the deal with you. But like, if you were just some random like former like smuggler I met on the street, I'd say screw you and you're out of luck. Yeah,
and like I said, Bill Burr's character, which is Mayfeld,
yeah,
he's needed to find Gideon's cruiser, and I'm sure that'll be his role on the team. Is going to be helping them locate him.
Yeah. For sure, and we do...
Also odd because I read articles like in the summer that Bill Burr was not returning to Mandalorian, so I was a little confused to see him, pretty much confirmed to come back now at this point. A little odd.
It's not confirmed, though. I mean, it could be we go there, we meet somebody else, and then somebody else...
It is not confirmed, but it's definitely not confirmed, but I feel like it's almost definitely. I mean, you're right, though. There's a small chance.
Yeah, and we do end the episode. We go back to the cruiser, and we see Grogu basically using the Force to mess with some stormtroopers, showing how he's going powerful. At the end, Moff Gideon basically taunts him and says, hey, like, let him just tire himself out. Then they knock him out, and they're going to bring him back to the doctor to basically extract more blood to form more Mandalorians. I think this to form more Snoke clones. Basically, I think we're going with him.
Yeah, that scene showed a little bit of dark side in Grogu, too. Anytime you're using the Force as attack, unless you're defending yourself, which doesn't look... I mean, we weren't there in the room beforehand. Maybe they were attacking him, but I doubt it. Most likely they were just holding guard. So that is a little bit of a dark side fall for him. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination he's going to turn into a Sith, but that was a little bit of dark side force for him, and yeah, they're going to keep trying to get the blood from him, but we've learned in Legends, which I guess is not canon, so you cannot use this as a reference point on anything, but in Legends, you've learned that Force-sensitive blood does not create Force-sensitive beings. So if that holds up in the canon, then Moff Gideon is wasting his time, because I think he's power-hungry and wants it for himself.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. That's basically the end of the episode, but we do have some points that we can look forward to here, which I think is number one. I think we do have a clear setup here of what's going to be our last two episodes. I think we're going to end up with episode 7 is Mando, Boba Fett, and Fennec basically trying to break this guy out of prison to try and get the crew together and sort of form the team to go get Grogu. And episode 8 is going to be our big battle. I would be shocked with anything other than that.
I think you're going to see a little bit less of breaking out and a little more building a team. Like, yeah, I think you're definitely right. That's exactly what's going to happen in the episode. But I think there's going to be a lot more focus on building the team.
Yeah.
So I think there's a chance. I don't think a high chance, but there's a chance you get Ahsoka and Bo-Katan on the team. I don't think they'll be on the team, but you have to leave that opportunity open, that possibility. And then you also have Bill Burr's character, Mayfeld.
Yeah, let's go through the team for a minute. Let's go through some options here because obviously Bill Burr's character, we think he'll be on there. We'll put him on the squad.
Yep. We got to throw Fennec and Boba and Mando, obviously.
That's sort of.
And then
Kara's going, or you think she's staying on tomorrow?
I think she'll be there with them, and I think Carl Weathers' character will be there with them as well.
Okay, so we're up to 6.
I have a hard time with names. I have a really hard time with the names because they're always so ridiculous in Star Wars that it's hard for me to pick up on, especially in the TV show because a lot of the guys are only in the show for one episode, so it's hard to remember the names. But we can discuss. We know who we're talking about, but those 4 definitely, and then other guys that could be on the team. You could have Ahsoka. You could have
Bo-Katan
and Sasha Banks and
her Mandalorian crew.
Yeah, which involves Sasha Banks, which I still think is very weird that they had a wrestler on there, but whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Do you think
I heard rumors?
Do you think we're getting?
I heard rumors.
Yeah. Do you think we're getting Oliphant back? Do you think they're getting Cobb Vanth to come back? Do you think he's just hanging on Tatooine the whole time?
They could get him. I mean, a lot of times it seems like in this show, there's a lot of episodes that go by and people are very judgmental and jump the gun right away and go, "Oh, that was a filler. I didn't like that episode. It was just a filler episode," or "What was the point of that?" And then a lot of those characters come back.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, maybe that wasn't a filler. It was important because it built this or it built that or it showed how their relationship grew. And you got to give these shows, any show really, but you got to give patience and you got to let the show unfold. Because it looks like that episode with Bill Burr that we thought was a filler episode actually had some sort of background to it because it showed how he's able to locate Imperial ships, and now it looks like he's going to be doing that for them. It seems like I will say the Frog Lady episode probably was a filler, but
do you think we'll get her? Because I feel like they love that character.
I would love to see Frog Lady back. I just don't think she can help.
She's good with tech, though. We did see that she was able to hotwire a robot real quick.
I mean, she can stay on the ship, be like a C-3PO.
Yeah, she can help them hack in some systems.
Maybe like a 3PO R2 mix. You can hack some systems like R2 and then stay on the ship and tell them to come back because there's danger and be like 3PO.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get a chance of Ahsoka and Bo-Katan, and I think this guy, I'll never remember his name. I want to see that guy again who said, "I have spoken," the one from the early in the show. He would be, I just think like he seemed like he was going to be a big character in the show, and I haven't seen him since.
Yeah. He's one of the few they have not brought back. I feel like they usually tie everybody, especially now that we brought Fennec Shand back from the dead.
Yeah, no one dies in Star Wars. I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, if Mace Windu comes back.
Well, we had 2 deaths last year. We had Keel die, and we killed the droid, the IG droid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how this works in the Star Wars universe, but you can just rebuild the droid, no?
You can rebuild the droid. We're not.
So
Keel is dead.
He's not out of it.
Yeah.
The only droid I think who's actually dead is K2SO from Rogue One, because that planet is gone.
Yeah. Well, Rogue One, everyone died.
But yeah, because they died, and that planet also blew up, so there's no chance they survived. And I don't want to see any Rogue 2 with Jyn Erso magically surviving. No, they're dead.
What about the Rogue One prequel series? Are you interested in that?
Yeah, Rogue One was maybe my favorite Star Wars movie. I loved it. I saw it 5 times in theaters.
Wow.
I saw it 3 times in a row opening weekend. I saw it Thursday night, then Friday night, then Saturday night. And I must have went like a week or 2 later, I don't know. And then again, I loved that movie. I thought it was so good. I saw it with my friends on Thursday. We always go to the opening nights together. and then I went, I want to say, with my dad on Friday and then my brother on Saturday.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, they couldn't go on the same night. So I was like, I'll go both. I don't care.
Yeah.
So I loved it so much. And I love that movie. So I'm really excited. You get I'm a little confused because Rebels kind of runs at the same time as that Rogue One prequel series is going to run, and none of those characters were there. But it's just another point of view to a similar time period. So I'm excited for it. I like Cassian as a character. He seemed like he was really determined to take down the Empire as if it was personal to him. And he said at one point in the movie, he said he'd been in the fight since he was 6 years old. And I think he's supposed to be about 25 in the movie. So he's pretty much always been against the Empire. So I'd like to see, like, maybe they have a little flashback on why he's so anti-Empire. I know most people are, but I'd like to see why, for example, like exactly. And anything, I would assume K2SO would be in the show, and he was great.
Yeah.
So I would love to see more of him.
Yeah, for sure. I think, honestly, that movie is very underrated. I think it's far better than I think, honestly, any of the sequel trilogy.
That was, like I said, it was one of my favorite movies. I loved that movie so much. I thought it was so good. It built up so much. The music was fantastic. And it's actually funny because that was the first Star Wars movie ever that wasn't John Williams. Nothing against John Williams, but that music was incredible in Rogue One. And it was built up so well, and it was like everything about it was so cool. I thought it was such a good movie. I loved it. And I'm not really a big fan of the sequel trilogy. And that was like, I was like, wow, like I forgive any of the sins that that the sequel trilogy did to me as a Star Wars fan. Like I can say, a lot of people will say I hate the sequels, I hate all the new Star Wars. No, I'm glad Disney bought Star Wars because we got Rogue One, because we got Mandalorian, because we got Rebels. Like overall, I'm glad. Even though I didn't like sequel movies, I'm still glad that they purchased it because we got to get some of that other content.
Yeah, I mean, I took a dunk on The Rise of Skywalker last year on this podcast. It was so bad.
I think I don't mean this to be funny, I really mean this. I think it was the worst movie I ever saw.
It's right up there. It's up there for me. Like, I will say this. I think I put episodes 1 and 2 behind it, but not by much.
I think 9 actually was the worst movie I ever saw. And it doesn't mean I did hate it, but like I actually kind of had fun in the theater. Like it was at least a little entertaining, but it was like
absurd.
It was really bad.
Yeah, it was just filled with plot holes, a bunch of strange choices. Like there were points.
The first half hour was so unbelievably rushed, and I say this all the time to my friends, and we all laugh about it. Star Wars is they're multi-hundred, they're $500 million movies in terms of like production costs. Like some of the biggest production cost movies ever, right?
Yeah.
They literally said in the last movie, this is the finale of Star Wars, as at least that's what we've been told, that this is how it all wraps up. They literally said it was a line. They had to sit around a table and they had to say this line, and table reads. They had to write it. Someone had to approve it. They actually had a character say, somehow Palpatine has returned. They couldn't even explain it. They actually said that. That was the most absurd line I've ever heard in my life. They didn't even know how. They were like, yeah, somehow he returned. They didn't even care to like tell us in the movie how. It was unbelievable to me. I mean, they kind of explained it with clones and all that, but like the fact that they said that somehow Palpatine, I'm sitting here like, yeah, somehow he did. I mean,
it was not good.
I mean, I think people can disagree when it comes to 7 and 8. Some people like, people didn't, whatever. But like, I don't like 8. I really dislike 8. But if someone does like it, I'm not going to say they're wrong and like argue with them. It's just an opinion. But 9, I can't respect the opinion of someone who thought it was good.
No, it was like a mishmash mess. I mean, like the stuff that like literally made no sense. We had the whole, all of a sudden that Palpatine's alive. He has this massive fleet he's building in the middle of nowhere. And at the same time, Lando shows up just to sort of be the random guy who goes and cross the galaxy in the span of like 10 minutes and gets an entire fleet to show up and fight the Sith fleet. It's like made no sense.
Yeah, I was really disappointed in that final scene too. They tried to do like an Avengers Endgame. This is like the third time we brought up the Avengers, but because it's so similar in that it's a big universe with a lot of movies. But they tried to copy it in that final scene with the big fight against all the rebels versus all of the First Order against all the resistance in the New Republic. They completely failed. Like, the way you do that is, like an Endgame, you had everyone who's anyone in there. You had Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like, you had the Wasp show up. You had Pepper Potts show up. Everyone was there. Howard the Duck was in the background, if you look closely. Yep. Like, everyone was there. And then in The Rise of Skywalker, it was Lando and Wedge. That's it.
Lando, Wedge, a couple of randos we met in episode 9.
Yeah. People we met along the way. Like, not even like what would have been nice, maybe. I'm not saying, like, I'm not going to write the movie. Obviously, they know more than I do. If this movie came out years from now, put in all the characters from Rebels, or at least the ones that are still alive. Put in characters, I know probably some of the clones from the Clone Wars, like Rex is probably dead at that point, because at that point he'd be like 120 years old. But put in characters that we recognize from the cartoons and the TV shows. Put in Mando, like
Ahsoka.
Put everyone in. Yeah. Ahsoka, yes, everyone. That would make this. I know you're going for that epic battle at the end where all of the good guys take on this super villain, unbelievable bad guy, Thanos or Palpatine, whoever it may be. Put everyone there.
Yeah, I think
the Force and the Force Ghost too. Like when same situation when Rey said, "I'm all the Jedi." You hear their voices; they should be behind her as ghosts.
Yeah, there were so many wasted opportunities in that movie. It's just such a disaster because I think the whole thing was just poorly handled by Disney. Just because like the whole thing of having 3 different directors was a dumb idea because none of them wanted to follow the same vision. They all had their own ideas, and then.
Yeah, they had no plan going into the trilogy at all.
No.
They made episode 7 more as a reboot than a sequel.
Yeah, 7 was basically a copy of episode 4. Then Rian Johnson comes in, does his own thing. Some people loved it. Critics loved it. Fans hate it. And then they said, oh, no, we don't like it. How the fans like this. They bring JJ back for 9 and basically say, hey, ignore what happened in 8. Just do what you were planning to do and just finish it up however you want because Colin Trevorrow backed out on us.
Yeah, he had creative differences and he backed out. Exactly. They had no plan at all for the trilogy, no plan at all for the series. It was going to put out a reboot, and oh no, we got to make 2 more of them.
Yeah, sell tickets, make money. That was basically the idea behind those.
Yeah, and it's disappointing. I really say this all the time to my friends too. We talk about Star Wars a lot. We have a lot of Star Wars talk, but I was really disappointed in that. I went to opening night of all 5 of the Disney Star Wars movies, like the Thursday night, like opening night in the IMAX theaters, whatever. Force Awakens was a blast. I'm not saying I loved the movie. At the time, I loved it. Looking back, you're right. It's a copy of episode 4. I don't really like it, but at the time, I loved it when I first saw it. That night was like magical. It was the theater was packed beyond belief. There were lines of hundreds of people waiting to see it. It was like an event. I saw people from high school that I haven't seen at that point in like 6 years, and they were waiting on the line. It was an epic event. Even The Last Jedi was, too. But then when I saw Solo, the theater was a quarter full. No one was clapping, nothing. Like I'm used to like these big, like when you go to opening night, it's a big event. Like when I like Force Awakens, when you first see Han and Chewie on the Falcon, people went nuts. When you first saw, all the characters, and then I saw Rise of Skywalker. The theater was about half empty, half full, probably more empty than full. They didn't show any previews. My friends were getting popcorn, whatever, like getting drinks. I'm sitting down because I was either full or whatever. I didn't get any popcorn. I'm watching it, and all of a sudden it just starts. There was no previews, and I'm texting them like, "It just started," and they're like, "What? You're lying." It just started, and they rush in. And I'm like, they missed the first 5 minutes. They missed the whole scene of Kylo on Mustafar.
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Yeah, this is what happened." And they're like, "What?" And I look it up, and I'm like, and I look up on the internet. Apparently, some theaters didn't even show previews because there weren't enough people in the audience. They thought it was a waste of time. Yeah, I don't know if that's a lie. I don't know if someone just made that up. But like, I'm like, what? This is the finale of Star Wars. There's no one here.
Yeah, it's not good.
I walk in the theater, and when I went to the theater for Force Awakens, when you give your ticket to the guy, like he knows you're seeing Star Wars. When I went for the Rise of Skywalker and for Solo, they're like, "What movie are you seeing?" I'm like, "Star Wars." What?
Yeah, now that's Avengers territory because now people like the Avengers movies are like that. Like I remember going to Endgame I think.
Yeah, me too. I saw it on the Friday night. I couldn't go on the Thursday for whatever reason.
Yeah, same here. I went on the Friday night and like the theater was popping and everything. Like when Cap catches Mjolnir, the theater explodes when all the Avengers are coming out of the rings, and you hear Cap.
I need a favor from you.
Yeah.
I need a favor from you.
Yeah.
You just pronounced it. I can't. You got to say it slowly for me. How do you pronounce Thor's hammer?
Mjolnir.
Mjolnir?
Mjolnir.
I'll never get it. I don't.
Yeah. It's like M and then Yol, like Yol, except for like Yol, except without the U.
But yeah, it used to be, Star Wars used to be like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember, I wasn't old enough when the prequels came out to know if it was like that. At least episode 1 probably was, because it was the first one in a while people went to. But like 7 was like that. 8 was kind of even like that. Like even in 8, I know a lot of the fans didn't like it. I'm one of them. But when Yoda showed up, like the crowd went nuts.
Yeah.
When 9, when Lando showed up, there's like 3 people going, "Hey, look, it's Lando."
Yeah.
Like you can I don't know. It was not the same. It was not the same at all, and I was disappointed by it.
Yeah, I am too, because this franchise has so much potential. I mean, you've seen it in the video games, and like that's my hope, because they're gonna make more movies. They're not gonna let this cash cow die, especially after Mando's success.
No way.
My hope is that we don't do anything named Skywalker for a very long time. Just explore more corners of this universe, because the universe is fun. Like I would like to see them.
So are you interested in? I've heard a couple of things, a couple of ideas they might do. Are you interested more in? I heard like old Republic, like way back, like side stories, whatnot. Or are you more interested in what if they just made a completely new galaxy with completely new characters and no references at all to the original, to the originals or prequels or sequels? Which would you rather?
My idea for a movie trilogy, and this is what I've said before on this podcast, I've said also to John Stanko on his own podcast. I don't know if you remember the Knights of the Old Republic video games. I feel like that's fertile ground for a trilogy, because you're far enough away.
So you're talking way back? Way back. Is Yoda in there? Is he alive?
No, this is like if you ever played the Knights of the Old Republic video game.
No, I have. I'm asking you, like, is this? Are you saying 900 years ago? Because are you saying thousands of years ago, like the old Republic?
Thousands of years ago, like when that game was set, like way before any of this.
Okay. So way before anyone. So yeah. Yoda is the oldest character in Star Wars. Is not even a thought yet.
Correct.
Okay.
I think that's the way you go, because it's a fun element. People who haven't played the game. There's a great twist in the middle of the story that sets up very well cinematically. You could make just the first one to a trilogy. You could fix the problems with the second one, because that game got rushed through development to try and get out for Christmas, but there's stuff there.
I think you have only one character in Star Wars canon at this point who would really be a part of that. And he wouldn't be a main part of it. He'd be in the background. At some point, you have to reference him. Now it's Darth Bane.
Yeah. He's the only one.
Yeah, that's it. And I like that idea. No, I'm completely with that idea. I don't really know where I want them to go with it. I just know that recently, whatever they put out, besides those 3 sequel movies, I really like a lot. I like Solo. I thought Solo was a pretty fine movie. I didn't love it. I didn't have any complaints with it though.
Yeah, Solo.
And as I said, I loved Rogue One, and the Clone Wars and Rebels I loved too.
Yeah, Solo was just underwhelming. It was like kind of like when you went in there, like, did we need this? And then you watched, you're like, wasn't bad, like, but it's not.
Yeah, exactly. I went in there thinking, why am I watching this? This is gonna suck. And I left. I was like, that was bad. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that's bad. And that's a low bar for Star Wars to be clearing.
Yeah, and that's why that theater was empty. I mean, I hear a lot of stuff on the internet and friends talking like, oh, they should make a series about whomever, or a movie about him. And I think I see people all the time on the internet saying that they should make a movie focused on clones.
Yeah,
like the 501st Legion, stuff like that. And I always say to myself, people didn't see a movie about Han Solo. No one's seeing a movie about a group of random clones.
Yeah, because that's what people don't realize. Like, if you're walking out of there and you're feeling like
I'm going to see it, but as a casual fan going to see it, no way.
Yeah, it's like when you're walking into Ant-Man for the first time. You're like, okay, this is a Marvel movie. I go see it, and you're like, oh, that's okay. You should not be doing that with one of your most popular characters of all time. Going in, it was good.
Yeah. I wish they made a sequel to that, though, and I can see why they're not, because people didn't really watch it.
Yeah.
But the way that movie ended and showing how Maul was still involved with the crime syndicates at that point, because that's a heavy part in the Clone Wars, is Maul getting involved in the crime syndicates, and that's where the Darksaber comes in, and that Solo is very related to the Clone Wars in that sense. But That would have been cool to see Maul as like the main villain of the crime syndicates in a Solo 2 or whatever, and seeing maybe Jabba the Hutt and Boba Fett a little bit. Like, that would have been pretty cool, and I think they were planning on doing that, and people saw it, but people didn't really see it.
Yeah, once it bombed, they kind of gave up on that.
Yeah. Would have been nice. I would have liked to see it, but I understand why they didn't.
Yeah, for people who are interested, I will also link in the show notes to my review of episode 9 with John Stanko last December, and hardly that was a year ago, but like this franchise as a whole is much better off since it's going in the Mandalorian direction than in the feature film direction.
It's because of two men. Well, Jon Favreau, you got to give him credit for creating the show, but Dave Filoni has brought Star Wars back.
Yes, he has.
Even watching the Clone Wars, the final season. I know you will watch it. I know you haven't watched all of the episodes. I think you've seen a couple. I know eventually you will. That last season is split into 3 arcs. The final arc is like a 4-episode arc. That's basically a movie when you combine those 4 arcs because they pick up right where the last one left off. And it runs side by side with Revenge of the Sith. So when there are scenes in the movie that are happening, and they reference those scenes in the show. And it's fantastic. Like, you see a table, there's a meeting in episode 3 where they're all around a table and they're talking about how they're sending Obi-Wan to take out Grievous. And that exact scene you see from another point of view in the Clone Wars. And it's basically just Ahsoka's point of view throughout episode 3, and it's phenomenal.